That's right.
Calvin Kattar versus Arnold Allen. Dominic, if I were to write out a list of some of the best performances of the year, I think the short list, so if you took a list and then you cut it down to like your top five, I think there's a good chance Calvin Kattar and Arnold Allen would make an appearance on that list.
Mm,
Calvin Kattar basically started our year off with a bang. He was in the main event against Giga Chikadze. Chikadze was, of course, like really looked at as perhaps a future player in this division, a real threat to the throne, maybe.
mm-hmm.
And Calvin Kattar beat the brakes off of him for 5 rounds.
Yeah.
His first fight since getting the brakes beaten off him by one Max Holloway. So a big comeback performance from him. And then, Dominic, we went to London, one of the best cards of all time, especially for a fight night.
Mm,
Arnold Allen on that main card versus Dan Hooker, who was trying to reinsert himself into the featherweight division. Arnold Allen said, "No, sir," and had him looking like a pinball in a pinball machine. Was just, I mean, beating that ass all over the cage.
yeah.
So now these two have been placed against one another. I know Cater has since fought again. He did lose this past summer in a very razor thin close decision to Josh Emmett.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, I think stock is at least somewhat high on Cater right now. And
Yeah.
then Arnold Allen, who's got an 8 fight win streak, one of the highest win streaks in the entire UFC. So, your thoughts kind of going in here? Two guys that feel like they're really trying to get the eyes of Volkanovski on them. You know, Volkanovski looking for that lightweight title, but eventually he's got to come back. At least we assume. So, what do you kind of think of this main event going in, and what storyline maybe sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, this is a sick main event, guys. If you're a fight fan, this is right up your alley. This is a phenomenal matchup stylistically in terms of where they are in the division right now, number 5 versus number 6. Arnold Allen, of course, is riding a wave that's unprecedented really right now in the featherweight division outside of the current featherweight king and Alexander Volkanovski. He's 9-0 inside the UFC, 11 wins in a row if you go the 2 fights prior to his UFC run. And he's really just making some of it easy work. Some of it he's more methodical in his ways, but he's a super, super talented. And dare I say, up until the Dan Hooker fight, which put him, you know, on a showcase, on a platform, he was severely underrated, Noah. Really, this is a battle of two of the most underrated fighters in all of the UFC. But again, now they're getting that shine. Calvin Kattar, this is going to be his 5th UFC main event. Arnold Allen, this is his first. So the bright lights for Arnold for the first time. Calvin Kattar, been there, done that, especially over the course of 5 rounds. Calvin Kattar, one of the best boxers in the UFC. Arnold Allen, dangerous striker. I think we saw that in Dan Hooker, in the Dan Hooker fight. But good submissions and just a really solid, well-rounded skill set, too, that you don't get to see all that often in this division right now. This is a really, really high-level fight with important implications. The storylines is Calvin Kattar, right? You said lost that razor thin decision that could have went his way against Josh Emmett. Can he right the ship? Can he kind of hold strong in that top 5 spot? Prove that he's right there for that title. Arnold Allen to start your UFC career 10-0, get a win in your first main event against Calvin Kattar. That would say a lot, and getting him right next to Alexander Volkanovski. So there's a lot riding on this. It's a very, very big fight card. I'm not. I know there's like a love coming in from it, for it from the hardcore fans, but even casual fans, like, this is going to be a really. I don't see a scenario where this fight's boring. I'll put it that way.
Mm.
That could be a kiss of death. We've done a few of those on this show, but I think this is going to be a pretty incredible fight. No, I really do.
It is two guys that constantly deliver. Arnold Allen feels like this is the biggest fight of his career by far. It's his first
Yeah.
main event spot. He's got the win streak. Feels like there's more at stake for him here. Like, I think a win could, not guaranteed, but could really put him in line to be the next title challenger at 145 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it should. There's the argument for Josh Emmett.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been very much in support of Josh, in his endeavors to try to get at least a title eliminator or something. But Arnold Allen undoubtedly is right there as well. And the fact that he has that undefeated start to his career does say something. for him, I think the activity has prevented him from being more looked at as that threat in a lot of the not even just casual fans' eyes, but even some fans to our level. Like I think that a lot of us tend to forget about Arnold Allen sometimes when he goes through these extended periods of not being as active. But we saw him in March. He's back here in October, the end of October. He's really looking to cash in here and get a big win, put
Hmm.
himself in a title fight opportunity that he may not need to fight for until next summer. So that would be kind of perfect for his sort of schedule. While for Calvin Kattar, I feel like there's less at stake. Like, yes, you're in the top five.
Hmm.
You don't want to drop two in a row, three of your last four. That doesn't sound very good. And after the all time beating he took from Max Holloway, I wasn't sure if, regardless of if he bounced back, because that kind of beating changes a career. But for me, after that fight, I wasn't sure if he was ever going to be able to sort of wash away the stench
Hmm.
of that
Hmm.
fight. Like, I thought he may just always be bogged down by being the guy who just. Max Holloway's great, but when Volkanovski's beat him three times and the way Max beat Cater,
Right.
like I
Right.
wasn't sure if there was anything he could ever do to put himself in a title fighting opportunity. But then the Giga Chikadze fight nearly washed away all of that right away for me.
Yeah,
I
I
thought he
agree.
came back in a massive way. On one hand, Chikadze was really being built up as that kind of real threat to Volkanovski's title reign, and Cater just beat the brakes off of him and did take some good shots in that fight and showed that really he's still a tough ass dude. Doesn't
Yeah.
It's not like his chin's gone or anything like that. And then the Josh Emmett fight afterwards, you could argue that Cater won that fight,
Yeah.
and the fight delivered. It was
Oh
another
yeah.
main event spot for him. That's three main events in a row for Calvin Cater. I don't think there was anyone before the Max fight. I think that's three main events in a row. No, actually four. He fought Zabit,
Yeah, and
right?
don't forget Dan Ige. He's had 5 straight, I think.
Wow, five straight main events for Calvin Cater. You know, that's an
Yeah.
underrated stat that I don't think a lot of people would.
Those are Anthony Smith numbers, ladies and gentlemen.
Those are Anthony
Yeah.
Smith numbers.
Yeah.
And most fights that we just, actually, every fight has delivered in some way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if he comes in here, if he gets a win and puts on another great performance, great fight, then yes, he lost to Josh Emmett, who should still have claim to that title fight over him, but it would go a long way in showing the brass, like you put this guy in that spot. It may not exactly break the house, bring the house down as far as pay per view buys, but it could deliver in terms of the action, and then who
Hmm.
knows where that could take him. So I definitely see what you're seeing when it comes to this fight. I'm not gonna I'm gonna say it, but I'm gonna regret saying it as soon as I say it. Okay, this fight is too good to fail.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree.
And I guess Dominic, do you sort of agree with me? I guess in my assessment of what's at stake for these guys. Do you feel, how do you compare a win here for Arnold Allen versus the resume of Josh Emmett right now in terms of
Mm.
would those two guys need to then fight to declare the true number one contender, or is one of these guys going to get the timing right and be in place for Volkanovski maybe next summer?
Yeah, that's interesting because it's been a little bit quiet at the top of featherweight since July, right? I mean, that's when Volk beat Max Holloway, right? That was July. Yeah. So it's been
Mm-hmm.
that long ago already. We know Volk got injured. Now his next fight's going to be at 155. The title's up in lingo right now. Probably not going to be defended until next summer at the earliest. So, what will happen here? This is again assuming Arnold Allen wins this fight because we're comparing it with him and Josh Emmett. You have Yair Rodriguez still at the top now. I know his last win was kind of shaky because it came with the injury to Ortega, but he's there as well. You kind of have like a three-headed monster, at the top, and nobody really knows because you can't do a triple threat match, unfortunately, in the UFC. So it's interesting. It's in a very interesting spot right now. You would think that something would have been worked out. We've not heard anything about Josh Emmett or Yair. I feel like them two fighting in all this meantime or coming up the end of the year would have been a good compromise. But here we are about to hit November and nothing's been said. So I would still hold Emmett ahead of Allen simply because, I mean, they're both fresh matchups, obviously. All three of them are for Volkanovski, so that causes even more drama. But Emmett beat Kattar first, right? I think that's kind of the ruling here on this one. Obviously, Emmett's win streak isn't as high as Arnold Allen, but Emmett had to fight back from that torn ACL. He's doing this all at like 38 years old. The timing, the clock that he has on his career is much shorter. I would give it to him before Arnold Allen, but I just don't really know what's going to happen at the top of this division anyway, with Volk taking time away for 155. Honestly, I'd like to just go ahead and see Emmett and Yair get a fight in since this fight's about to happen, but I can't have everything I asked for, Noah.
Well, I feel like part of the reason why it's taken so much time for that fight to gain any traction still hasn't, but
Yeah.
I could see there starting to be some whispers of Emmett versus Rodriguez, but I think what made everybody kind of hold steady was everybody was unsure what Volkanovski was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
He made it clear he wanted the lightweight title fight, but up until Robbie Fox's interview last week, Dana had never said anything about it.
Right.
Now that that direction has been made pretty much clear, I think even though Josh Emmett, I would still hold above Arnold Allen with the win. I think, unfortunately for him, timing is not going to be on his side to go straight into a title fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I think him and Rodriguez would make a lot of sense. But then, of course, once that fight happens, let's say it happens the first quarter of next year, the winner of that is clearly going to have that edge over Arnold Allen. Now, this is a lot of ifs and, looking out maybe a little too far. But for now, Arnold Allen with the win, I would say, is the most likely guy to get the next shot as it stands.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.